Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm Angelina, I'm a self-diagnosed autistic, and I'm currently waiting for my formal assessment. Meanwhile, I keep figuring out what being autistic means for me, and trying to sort out my life. In my previous video, I talked a bit about masking, and how it is one of the reasons why I wasn't diagnosed with autism as a child or a teenager. Today, I want to go more in depth on my experience with autistic masking. What I've learned about masking is that it's a trauma response and a coping mechanism. The world is unfortunately not built for autistic people, so to avoid being rejected and made fun of, we try to appear as neurotypical as possible, so basically non-autistic. Females are apparently better at masking than males. There are exceptions, of course. Also, not all autistic people mask, or are able to mask, so it's definitely a privilege. But in general, masking is very detrimental to our mental health. One of the negative consequences of long-term masking can be losing a sense of self. Some autistic people will go as far as creating different personalities, depending on who they're interacting with. And when they discover that they've been masking all along, it will make them wonder who they really are underneath the mask. Now, because I've barely interacted with my peers in secondary and high school, this total loss of identity has thankfully not happened to me. I still masked to fit in, but I always knew who I was when I wasn't in public. At least that's what I believe. I'm sure there are parts of my mask that are so ingrained in me that I see them as a part of my identity, but that's a whole different topic. Masking is still a big part of my life. I can never fully be myself with people outside of my family, but I'm working on it. Neurotypical people mask or make these small adjustments to their behavior sometimes too, because there are social norms and rules that we all are expected to follow. But the difference is that for autistic people, masking is almost constant and requires a huge effort, and it's a lot deeper than just changing our behavior based on a social setting. Masking is physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausting. It feels like you have to be alert all the time, and like your brain is always working super hard. When I'm masking, I'm constantly analyzing myself and others around me. How I stand, how I talk, where I look. I'm always taking mental notes on other people's interactions, how they approach each other and respond to each other. The list could go on. Masking almost feels like I'm acting in a play, with the exception that everyone else knows what to do, and I have to improvise. So I feel the pressure to get it right and not mess up. No wonder why I always feel so anxious whenever I have to interact with people. One of the main questions I've had since learning what masking is, have I masked my whole life? Up until last year, I didn't know I was autistic, and that I was subconsciously masking my autistic traits. So it's been hard to analyze my life from this perspective and pinpoint specific moments, especially from early childhood. Sometimes I just wish I could go into the head of little me and see how I experience the world. Now, having analyzed my experiences, I can see that I've been building my mask and adding layers to my mask since a very young age. Masking was probably more subtle as a child, but my masking skills definitely improved as I got older. In university, I interacted with people the most compared to the previous 6 years of school. It was due to the nature of my degree, so I didn't have a choice but to be more social and interact with people. I was very stressed and anxious the whole time, but my social skills definitely improved, and I became more comfortable in social situations. Now I can see that it was a result of masking. For most autistic people, if not all, masking means suppressing certain aspects of ourselves and exaggerating or even changing other ones. There are many different ways of masking. I'm gonna go over the ones that are typical for me. Most of these examples are experiences that I remember, but I've also gained some insight on my childhood by talking with my mom and analyzing my childhood photos and videos with this new knowledge that I have. Observing and analyzing people, which I talked about, has been my biggest resource when it comes to learning about neurotypical behaviors and building my mask. I was very observant since childhood, and that's why my masking skills are what they are today, and why my autism was unnoticed for so long. My ways of masking are imitating or mimicking people's behaviors, exaggerating facial expressions, monitoring my body language, suppressing emotions and reactions, and preparing for conversations. These are definitely the main ones. Mimicking and imitating people is something that I never thought I did, which is interesting because that's pretty much the main thing I've had to do to appear neurotypical. Now I can obviously see lots of examples of this. According to my mom, when I was a baby, my pediatrician used to say that she has to work hard to earn a smile from me. I definitely wasn't a very smiley baby and toddler, especially with strangers. But very quickly, I learned that that's what people do, and smiling became kind of like my thing. I would smile every time someone would look at me or talk to me, and especially if they took photos of me. Whenever I would see a camera pointing at me, I would instantly smile, and I did it so much that it almost became my personality. Like, to this day, my grandma's neighbor, who has known me since I was a child, keeps telling Grandma, "Oh, Angelina is such a nice girl. She's always smiling." Smiling is still a big part of my masking. I guess I don't want people to get the wrong impression of me, and I want to look approachable. Smiling is also like a defense mechanism, especially when I have to talk about hard or uncomfortable things. I have to consciously force myself to stop smiling if I want to be taken seriously. What I've learned through the years is that my facial expressions don't always match what I'm feeling inside. I might feel happy, but my face will not show it. So whenever someone is saying something to me, I have to make sure that I react accordingly by exaggerating my facial expressions. If someone's saying something sad, and it does actually make me sad, I still find myself thinking whether I look sad enough. What many autistic people apparently do to try and mimic neurotypical people is they will practice facial expressions in the mirror or check if they look natural enough. I never thought I did this either until I rewatched my childhood videos and saw this clip. Here it looks like I'm adjusting my posture and pose by looking back and forth in the mirror. And I'm also, in a way, mimicking mom's mannerisms and tone of voice. This clip brought back other memories too. I don't remember actually sitting down and practicing my facial expressions, but I remember checking if my smile looked natural enough in the mirror before taking a picture. Or sometimes, when I did a certain expression while interacting with someone, I would be like, "Oh, I wonder what it looked like." And I would actually replicate it later in front of the mirror. I still do this sometimes. I'm always very conscious of my body language and facial expressions. As a teenager, I remember being very aware of myself and everything I did. I still am, but it was a lot worse, especially during secondary and high school. I would monitor and adjust my posture, the way I would walk, sit, and stand, my eye contact, my voice, everything. My back would literally hurt from sitting so straight the entire day. By the end of each day, I was very exhausted, and once I got home, I would often have what I now know were meltdowns. Imagine trying to appear right and say the right things all day long. You're basically having an internal monologue with yourself, and at the same time, you're also paying attention and analyzing everything that's happening around you. And when you're in a conversation with someone, you also have to concentrate on what the other person is saying and come up with a response. Oh, and imagine that there's also noise or music playing in the background. So yeah, masking in general is very overwhelming and draining. Of course, you can't let others know that it's such a struggle for you to appear normal. So on top of all of those thoughts, you have to make sure that you appear as natural and relaxed as possible. I remember as a teenager, I would go into a store with my mom, and she could always see a change in my posture and facial expressions. She would point out that I looked tense and tell me to relax. And I would get annoyed and upset because I was trying really hard to look relaxed. Another way of masking for me is suppressing my emotions and reactions. I never really show so-called negative emotions like sadness or frustration in public. I rarely cry in public unless I'm really distressed or overwhelmed. I don't cry often in general, but especially not in public. In school, I remember hiding my confusion in social situations and pretending that I know what's going on because I didn't want to stand out. And for this same reason, I suppressed a lot of my reactions. If I was excited about something and I noticed that others weren't as much, then I wouldn't show my excitement. Also, I'm not sure if this is a part of my mask or a result of masking for so long, but it sometimes feels like I'm dissociating from my emotions in a way and not allowing myself to feel and express them. Another aspect of my masking is preparing for social interactions and conversations. This is called scripting. Scripting is a very important part of masking for me. I've needed the scripts since early childhood, and I don't think I will ever stop needing them. Autistic people process information differently. I need more time to process information and come up with responses. In conversations, I don't have that extra time to think. So preparing for conversations where I would have to share my thoughts and opinions is essential for me to be able to get through them. When I don't or can't prepare for the interaction, or when a conversation takes an unpredicted turn, I will struggle with putting my thoughts into words, or my mind would just go completely blank and I will have no idea what to say. And overall, I will feel and probably look very awkward. So I prepare the scripts whenever I can to feel less stressed. I think about what someone might possibly ask me and rehearse my answers. I prepare the questions I could ask the other person and visualize different ways the conversation could go. I don't do this with everyone. It really depends on how comfortable I am with the person. If it's someone I know well and who I trust, then I usually don't have to script that much, or at all. In formal situations, I always have to script though. For appointments and things like that, I have to rehearse everything I will need to say. I have to know exactly what phrase I'll start with, And what will I say next? Oh, and phone calls. I have to literally write down everything I need to say. I feel like this whole video I was like, I have to do this, I have to do that. But honestly, if there was more understanding and acceptance of autism, we wouldn't have had to learn to mask in the first place. And we wouldn't feel the need to maintain the mask, to basically make neurotypical people more comfortable and more approving of us. Alright, this was a long video. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. What are your thoughts on masking? Do you mask? What's your experience like? Let me know in the comments. See you next time. Bye!